All right, for those who were watching this who didn't come to class, we went to OneDrive and we downloaded the sales tax calculator out of the Unit 4 in-class folder. And we also downloaded, and where did I put mine? The Volker Tools 2013-11-13 include file is what I call it. It's Volker Tools file, that's in the programming logic folder on OneDrive. You don't have to dig any deeper than that. This Volker Tools file is a file that you're going to add to every one of your projects that need the tools, which is pretty much every one of your projects from now on. So whenever you create a new project, you're going to go through the process that we're going to go through here in just a minute to bring that in. But make sure these are accessible to you someplace. And for right now, first we're going back to the bowling program, so open that up. We just went through a bunch of labs, and I guess the recording can record this. What did you think about the labs? Better than me lecturing?
Not as good.
Yes, suck up, yes, not as good. Hey, it worked though, right? You feel like you got the concepts. There's more of those coming down the pike. I like to use those. The Swift class is using them right now, though I found some online labs instead of my own. I think it's a good way to learn these things. The downside is you need to be able to go back to your projects and find them to see how you did that. Or most of that stuff's in my notes, so let's just fly through them here again real quick. You learned how to set the tab orders so that when you navigate through your program, it navigates in a top-down order. Otherwise, it's really annoying to people. I will be checking that in every one of your programs. You don't need to put the labels, any kind of label, output labels, descriptive labels. You don't need to put any of those in the tab order. They're never visited. There's no tab stop for labels. You can't stop there. You learned how to set focus. That also improves the usability of your program. So after the user hits calculate, it's immediately on the clear button. If you had a save button in your application to save the data, maybe you'd set focus to that. The point is, try to help the user navigate, particularly if they're not using the keyboard. Or if they are using the keyboard, not using the mouse, excuse me. So if they're using just the keyboard, they can navigate and not have to do a lot of messing around. And so as soon as you hit clear, what's the next thing you're going to do? Probably enter new data. So we set focus to the first field. This is also important enough that you probably want to add it to your designs. Hint, hint. Anytime now, you can go to button calculate, and at the bottom of the button calculate pseudocode, put in the command in English, set focus to button clear. Add it to your flowchart. What kind of box? Let's change the appearance of the screen. When you set focus to button clear, does it change the appearance of the screen? Yes, it does. It puts a bold border around button clear, so that should be a parallelogram. So you should add those to all your designs because I'm going to be looking for them. Might consider adding form load to your design. It's a brand new method. You don't have to, for bowling, we changed the screen color and stuff, but in your programs, you're definitely going to be loading the welcome screen. And we'll talk more about how to do that a little later. We'll try to finish this lecture here. So focus, something you can add. I'm not going to talk too much about locking objects in Visual Studio. Any object can be locked. If you right click it, there's an option to lock it. But what that means is you can't, as the designer, accidentally move it because you got everything perfectly aligned and maybe you're trying to select everything to change the font and you accidentally move it. If you lock them all, you can't move them. I find it very annoying because later on I'm going to want to move them and then they're locked and I have to unlock them so I can move them. And I don't use it much. But if you wish, you can lock your controls. Remember, you can do a Control A, which selects all the controls on your form. And then you can right-click any one of them and lock, and it will lock them all. Oops, there's no lock there. Oh, it's probably, why can't I lock them all? Maybe because of the timer? There we go. Oops, clicked in the middle of nowhere. Got to click on an object. Right-click, lock. Okay, so you can lock a bunch of them at once if that's what you want to do. I don't normally do it. I'm just showing it to you so that you know that the option exists. Access keys, again, provides quick ways for the users to move around. What my lab doesn't show you is how to add an access key to a text box in case you want to jump there. My users don't use it. My users barely use the access keys on the buttons that I give them. They grab the mouse and point to the button and click. Access keys are also used for menu items, which I don't use much. So you've been introduced to them. We have a standard from now on in this class that all your buttons have access keys, command buttons. So make sure those are available. Accept and cancel buttons, we also have a standard just so you can experience it that your calc button should always be the accept button and the cancel or the clear button should always be the cancel button for this class. After that, if you find it annoying, you can stop doing it. Actually, I think, remind me, after Unit 4, if you don't want to set those anymore, I'll stop checking for them. Just to prove you know how to do it. Okay, this we haven't talked about and you didn't experience in the lab, so I'm going to talk about anchoring controls a little bit. If I run this program and then decide that this is such a cool program, oh, you know what? Doesn't it get annoying after a while to always have to click the welcome screen when you're testing stuff? Well then, don't put the welcome screen in right away. I'm going to my code, and I'm going to comment it out. Going to my form load, here it is, and here's my welcome screen stuff. Highlight it. Remember this button comments out the stuff. And so now they won't execute. Before you turn it back into me, remember to uncomment. If you forget, I'll do it for a half a point. Okay, so now my welcome screen is gone. I don't have to worry about that. I also still have some test data in here. I might want to get rid of that. But if I maximize this, because I like it so much, it all kind of stays parked up there in the upper left-hand corner. Well, that's not too cool. One of the things you can do is anchor your controls. So I'm going to design view. And let's start with this little information icon. You might not have one, so let's go down to the exit button so I can show you how to anchor controls. You can anchor any control except the form itself. When you anchor it, you're basically attaching it to one or many sides of the form. So if I anchor this exit button to the bottom right, and you do that using the anchor property, notice by default everything is anchored to the top left, so it stays relatively where it was in the top left of the form. But we can say put this in the bottom right, and you have to turn these other ones off. So it's a goofy little control to say I want this anchored bottom and to the right. Visual Studio will ensure the distance between this button and the right edge of the form and the bottom of the edge of the form never changes. Regardless of what the user does to the form, that button stays anchored attached to the bottom right. Now here's the kicker. I'm always saying, all right, I got it, bottom right, and I run. Don't do this. Watch what happens. I got an error. What? All I did is change it, yeah. But you got an error. What you have to do is click outside of this someplace. So bottom, right, click, and I usually just click on the word anchor, and then it locks in. When you see the words bottom right, then you're done. But I'm probably going to make that mistake at least 2 more times in this recording and once more in every other class because I set it and I'm ready. Run, let's test it. Doesn't work. Now when I run it, notice initially the button doesn't look any different, but if I resize my form, it's stuck. If I maximize it, it's stuck to the bottom of the form. So I always know where to look for it. It's always in the bottom of the form. If you left it here, would it be terrible? Probably not. So let's anchor some of the other stuff, like these 2 buttons. Before you anchor stuff, you should park them where you want them to be. So I think I want these in the lower left. But I want them to stay next to each other. So now they're in the lower left. I still have them both selected. Now I'm going to anchor them to the bottom left. Left is already selected, so I just have to select bottom. Don't forget to click on anchor so that it sticks. While I'm at it, I'm going to choose my little info icon. If you don't have one, just ignore this. I'm going to anchor that one to the top right. And then test it. And as I change my info icon, my buttons, notice the left buttons are stuck. They're stuck to the bottom left, so they're always in the same place. So that's an easy way to anchor stuff. A tricky way, though, what if I want my title to stay centered regardless of what happens? A couple of ways to do it. Here's the easy way. Select that. Go to the anchor property, and I want it attached to the top, but I don't want it attached to any side. If you don't attach it to the side, then it doesn't move with the sides, it stays in the middle. Might not be intuitive to do it that way, but it works. I think you can also, let me just prove it. I run it. Oops, guess what I did? I told you. Just to the top. Run it. And now as I stretch this, it stays in the middle. Cool. If that doesn't make logical sense to you, you can also anchor it to both sides. Say, stay the same distance away from the left and the right. I believe this will do exactly the same thing. Uh-oh. Guess not. I expected it to, but it didn't. So that didn't work. Because it's trying to stay this same distance from the edges, and it can't do it because it's trying to do the same thing on the other side. Doesn't work, try it again, come back to the recording and adjust. What about the rest of this stuff? Now everything else is moving, what about the rest of it? Here's one option, highlight it all. I'm just dragging a box around, but not the buttons, not the labels, because we already anchored those. And I'm going to turn the anchoring off, except even the top and the bottom. I'm turning everything off. That means leave it in the middle of the form. Because right now it's kind of in the middle. Whether you like this or not, it's a different question. I kind of do. Because as I size it, everything stays in the middle. If I maximize it, it stays in the middle. So that's how you anchor. It's only used to adjust how the controls move when you resize the form. This bowling form, as far as I'm concerned, is perfectly sized for the objects that are on the form. So why would you want to maximize it? Some people just gotta have their screens maximized before they can run a program. I don't know. I've always asked my user that. They say, I like it that way. All right. Can you move it to the middle? Yeah, I can move it to the middle. Questions about anchoring? Okay. Then this is a perfect bowling program. The other thing you did, was added a documentation file. Notice there is no more documentation in my form. If I go to form about, or I go to form welcome, or form bowling in the code, there is no documentation at the top anymore that describes this form. That's not necessary. If you put a description of the form up at the top, I will ignore it, but I won't mark it wrong. Unless there's pink squiggles in it, then I might take a look. You don't need it there anymore. Now that you have a very complicated project, in my case with 1, 2, 3 forms, instead of going to each form to find out what it does, I go to the documentation page and it tells me everything I want to know about this project. What's the name of the project? What's its purpose? Here's the forms, alphabetized. Because at some point you might have 20 forms, and scrolling around here trying to find them is a challenge. And then the changelog. Paul and I were having a discussion when he was showing me his. He had it stuck in the middle because he forgot to move these up. But if the changelog is so important, why isn't it at the top? You could sneak it in there. Ours is fairly small, so let's leave it at the bottom. But if you want to move it, I won't complain. So this bowling program, and I will post it on the web, this is my solution to it basically, is functioning. And it's a good example. Yours should be as well. You can close it. So you added a welcome screen and made it, oh darn, I just closed that bowling program and I forgot to reattach the welcome screen. Go back to the code and form bowling. And remove the comments. Remember, don't remove the comments from the first line because that's an actual comment. This button with the little undo commenting uncomments the lines, and that one too, please. If I've been smart, I could have done them all at once. These 4 lines in your flowchart and pseudocode can simply be show welcome screen. That's it. This is the translation. They can be a simple show welcome screen. That's all you got to put in there. Does it change the appearance of the screen? Parallelogram. Later on, we'll learn another way to deal with this. We'll just even take it out of here and park it someplace else. But for right now, this is show welcome screen in your flowchart and pseudocode. Done. Save all, close it. So you learned how to do that. You learned how to put a timer on it. If you were curious, you learned how to use the timer to make things flash. I believe that bowling program flashes. Here's one quick way I can test it. Oops. I'm going to find the executable. Instead of opening Visual Studio, there's my executable. Do you flash? Yep. Don't forget about that executable. And so you learned all about that, and you learned how to catch the exceptions by wrapping a try-catch around it. When you're writing your code, my advice, as soon as you're done with your variables, type the word try, tab, and you'll have a try-catch block ready to go. Then underneath the try, start writing your code from the pseudocode. You can put the try-catch in right away. We did it after the fact. There's no reason to do it that way. So as you're writing code, you can put the try-catch in and then write all your code in between here. The catch should never be anything more than a message box. That's all that goes in the catch for us in this class. There's a message box saying something screwy, fix it. And feel free to be colorful within limits. You learned briefly about the message box. There is a more advanced version of this. If you want to know more about the advanced version of the message box, there's message box notes someplace. Right here. You can add icons, you can add other buttons to the message boxes, put titles on your message boxes. This, about 2-3 pages, shows you how to do it. I'm not going to cover it. You can read it if you wish. I think it's worth an extra credit. And that's a, what's the hidden secret stuff called? I forgot it. Easter egg. That's an Easter egg, half a point. Doesn't even show up on the evaluation sheet, but if I see a fancy message box, I'm like, oh, that's good, extra. How many of you have earned extra points that wasn't on an evaluation sheet? Can be done. Do some cool stuff that I didn't ask you to do, but save that cool stuff until after you do everything I did ask you to do so your assignment isn't late. Okay. Where was I? I did the application documentation. It's in my notes. But you also have a nice sample. Hint, hint, you can go get an existing item from your bowling program and suck it into your gas program and just be smart enough to change the name of everything. If you don't have an about form, don't leave it in there. You can copy that, all that stuff, you can copy it into your next project by importing it the same way you did it before with the welcome screen. You can import the documentation file. Finally, unformat. Let's open up that sales tax calculator that you downloaded from OneDrive. I'm going to show you what the problem is here, if it'll open. And let's just take a quick look at the form. This also has a welcome screen that's going to annoy me, but I'm going to forget to put it back if I take it out. So I'm just going to be annoyed. I'm not going to mess around with this too much. But it's just a quick little calculator routine. You type in an amount, you type in a tax rate that's already filled in, and then the program calculates your tax and your total. So if you want, you can follow along or just watch me. I'm going to put in a 125.33 and say calculate. And it tells me that one of my inputs is wrong. Who can tell me which one?
Sales tax.
Because?
It has percent.
Because it has a percent sign. Does this program work if I type it in manually as a decimal? Now it works. Remember the parse routines, int, double, decimal, like numbers? A negative sign if it's appropriate, but they don't like commas. They don't like dollar signs, and they don't like percent signs. But as we saw here, users like to type them. It's very common for users to come in here and say that the sales price was $1,233.55 and the sales tax is 5.5%. That even looks nice. I would want the user to have that information like that. So what I need is some way to tell the program to ignore the dollar signs, the commas, the percent signs. Oh, by the way, if there's a percent sign, divide by 100 because it's not really 5.5. It's 0.55. I need something. Welcome to your introduction to Volker Tools. Volker Tools are pieces of code that I have written to do stuff that I want to do over and over and over again, like unformat something that the user has typed. To bring in Volker Tools, you've already downloaded it from OneDrive. Once you've downloaded it, you don't ever have to download it again. You can suck it in from other places using, and let's do it, add an existing item. Volker Tools already exists. As long as you can find it in a different program someplace, you can go get it from there. Or you can download it from OneDrive again. I think there's even a copy linked on my website someplace. Add an existing item. Go find it. Mine's on the desktop. I don't know where you put yours. So go find Volker Tools CS. Double click it or click it and then click add. I like double click. That copied it into this project. I said copy. So it's still on my desktop. And it's also in here now. So whenever you do add existing item, when you did that for your welcome screen in the lab, it copied it. That generic welcome screen is still where it was. The about screen is still where it was. If you brought those in, it copies them. So here's Volker Tools. Let's take a quick look around. This is a CS file. It's pure text. Actually, it's a class. It's my own class. Notice there's no namespace here, so that's good. It can be used without having to change its namespace every time you suck it in like your welcome screen. And it's got all kinds of stuff. Let's collapse. I think Paul or somebody said in the other, I think maybe it was Harold who said, this is a handy button. When you got lots and lots of code like this, oh my goodness. Collapse. And now you get to see there's a get random that you'll use in Unit 5. Unformat, ooh, that sounds enticing. V proper case we'll learn about later. And is numeric you'll learn about later. And there's a bunch of stuff that's commented out. You'll learn about next semester. So these are tools that I use all the time. Here's the Unformat tool. Let's expand the documentation so we can read it. This function removes dollar signs and commas from numeric strings. Cool. If the string is formatted for percent, it removes the percent sign. Cool. And it divides by 100. Cooler. And turns it back into a decimal. Nice. But what it gives you back, what it doesn't say is what it gives you back is another string. You send it a string, it removes all the junk that we don't want using some magic that if you want to, you can study and try to figure out what the heck all that stuff means. Or you can just say it's magic, I don't care, it works. I'll show you how here in just a minute. But what it doesn't say is it gives you a string back, so it's not a number. When it's done, what you get is not a number, it's still a string, with all the stuff that you don't want removed. Sarah?
Where's the collapse
Where's the collapse button? Should be on your toolbar right here. If you've imported mine, that's up there. Very handy. And here's those comment buttons that I was using in case you need those. This is now part of your project. You don't have to do anything special. Now that it's in there, all you have to do is use Unformat. Let me show you how. Go to the code. Collapse again because Sarah needs practice. And then expand the little plus sign next to button calculate. Because we don't need to mess with the rest of this stuff. It's just the calculate routine that has a problem. Because right here it says, take the tax rate and parse it. Doesn't work because of the extra characters. If I type dollar signs in, and the user could, right? With dollar signs and commas, doesn't work because it tries to parse it and it throws an exception and says there's something wrong with your numbers. Geez, that looks good. That's true. How do we use Unformat to fix this problem? Rachel is typing the condensed versions of my notes. This is one she's going to condense to basically one line. And there's a lot of explanation here for how to do it wrong, but here's the right answer. Inside the parentheses for parse, you add vtools. That's the name of the class that we just imported. It's called vtools. Dot unformat parenthesis, and then there's an extra parenthesis on the end. That's it. That's all you got to do. The rest of this stuff just shows you how to do it wrong. Probably not a good idea. So in here, after the parse, you type vtools. And it's not going to help you because we're typing it on top of there, so I'm going to have to type it vtools. Got to capitalize it right. It's a little v, capital tools, dot. And then it gives you some help. So here's what vtools knows how to do. Unformat. I'm going to press tab to make it insert it. And then you have to remember the parenthesis. You're not done yet because we just added a parenthesis at the beginning, so we're going to need another one at the end. Done. It's a little complicated, right? But let's analyze it. Remember, we do what's in the parentheses first. So we first go get what's in the text box. We send that to Volker's handy-dandy unformat routine, which does its magic and strips out all the dollar signs, all the commas, all the percents, etc. And then we take whatever that gives us, which is a string, and we parse it. So this says, take what's in the text box. If there's any junk in it, get rid of it, and then parse it. Not too bad. Going to do the same thing for this one. So after the parse, inside the parentheses, vtools dot u, or just, I'm going to press tab. There we go. Parentheses. You could type that whole thing if you wanted to. And then a parenthesis at the end. That should solve our problem. Get rid of all the red squiggles. Run it. Let's try it. I'm going to give it a big test. I'm going to type in a dollar sign and 1,220,000, just any number with a couple of commas in it. Dot 35 for me, and I'll leave the 5.5%. Now, you know what? Let's increase the tax rate slightly, 5.57%. Fine. How much tax would I expect on $1 million? I would expect, is that $5,000? I think so. About $5,000 and change here. Calculate button, is it the accept button? Nope. Jeez, lame program. Okay. Whoa, tax amount is, well, that's $50,000. Paul was nodding at me for $5,000. He's wrong, so am I. $50,000 and change. And that's such a big number, it blew out my total, but that's okay. The good news is it didn't crash, and it gave me an answer. Let's give it something that's easy, $1,000. Does it work when there's no commas, no dollar signs? Better. That makes more sense. And seems to work. Does it still work if I type 0.055? Yep. But now my inputs look kind of ugly. Don't you think? Those are ugly inputs. This is a dollar amount. Why don't we clean those up for the user? Put some dollar signs on there. Change this to a percent so it's easier for the user to read and the user realizes, oh, look, I could type percents in there. How do we do that? After we've done all our calculations and displayed the results, I'm going to the end of this label total line here. A couple blank lines, make some space. I have to backspace one because this one's using tabs of 3. Don't worry too much about the alignment here. Slash slash. I want to format the inputs. You do not have to, it's in the recording now, you do not have to put this in your design. It's kind of a professional touch that I, the programmer, have decided. Doesn't have to be in the design. What do I want to do? I want to change what's in the text box. Text amount, dot text. Change it to what? A pretty version of what they typed. I already took out what they typed. It's called amount. Right? Amount dot toString for currency. Semicolon. So up here it said take out what's in the text box. Convert it into a number. Cool. Now down here I'm saying take that number, turn it back into a text with the currency format and store it on top of whatever they typed. How many decimal places do I get? How many?
2.
Because?
It's currency.
Because it's currency, and if it doesn't matter what it is, you get 2 decimal places if you don't specify. So you get 2 decimal places. And I also want to do the percent. TXT percent or tax rate dot text equals the tax rate number. Oops. ToString formatted for percent, but I only want 1 decimal place. I call this formatting the inputs. Takes what the user types and makes it look pretty. I save that until I get everything else done. This is kind of a last minute idea. So here's a demonstration. I type in 12,325.3. Tax rate of 0.05. Is that legal? I thought we had to put leading, no, in code you have to put leading zeros on. The user doesn't have to. Parse should work fine on that. And calculate. Not only does it do these calculations, it pretties those up for me. So they're easier to read. You don't like the dollar sign, then format it for N. So you get the comma. Don't want 2 decimal places. Change it. But you can format the user's input after you've done your calculation. Let them type them however the heck they want, and then you clean them up. I believe that's a requirement in the currency converter. So now you know how to do it. Nice program. Could use an accept button. Does have shortcut keys over there. I didn't set the accept button. So let's go practice. Exit, design. Where do I go? On the form. Very good. Not the button. Your first instinct might, hey, you button, you're the accept button. No, no, no. This is a feature of the form. The accept button. Drop down the list and choose button calculate, and the cancel button is button clear. I don't recommend making that button exit. Kind of makes sense. You press escape, get me out. Yeah, but if they press escape and they didn't mean to leave, now they're out and they have to rerun the program. Run. Test it. Just going to put in a 1 and press enter, and I get my answer, and off we go. Why is the 5.5% sticking in there? How do you do that? Let's go look. Whenever I hit clear, it doesn't clear out that 5.5%. How did I do that? Well, don't clear it. I just put other text in there instead when I hit clear. No, there's no rule that says when you clear, or some of you have changed this to button reset. Not bad. Right? Button reset's pretty good. Most web forms on them have a reset button, not a clear button. If you want to call your button reset, just make sure you change it in your pseudocode and your flowchart and your code. I'm fine with that. But this, and what does my design say for this one? It says change it to 5.5%. Doesn't say clear it. Okay. Done. Question, Karen?
Do we need to mention the Volker Tools in the documentation?
No, not at all. It's just magic. If you wish, you can. But you better spell V-Tools or Volker Tools right then. And notice it's also dated. Every now and then I enhance it, but I'll usually let you know. The only risk is every one of your programs now will have Volker Tools 2013 in it. And if there's a new version, it's not going to go find all those and automatically replace them. You've got to do it. Or live with the old version. Either way. Done with Unit 4. You know what that means? Time for more work. So what do we got? Lots of stuff. Put it in the recording so we see what's going on. Maybe. We have one worksheet left and 3 programs. Yeah, on the home stretch? No, that's just for this unit. Yeah, the home stretch for this unit, correct. Okay. So I go to Unit 4, okay.
Got me all excited.
So the Unit 4, let's maximize this so I can see what's going on. Here's the Unit 4 worksheet. I would suggest we do that first. It's fairly long, it's worth 20 points.
What does it do?
That's what we're going to decide. How about, we don't want to do it Monday and Tuesday because you got quizzes coming up. Right? Don't forget quiz on Monday.
27.
How about the what?
27.
Week later, you want to screw up your weekend or you want to do Friday? I like Friday because then I can grade them over the weekend instead of hanging them over my head all week long. Ben? Good by you? Mitch, you all right with that?
Yeah.
Okay, 24th. It's now in your Blackboard. Next thing, the gas estimate. Here's what I did last year, worked pretty well. I don't care which program you write first. Right? If you want to do your student selected one because it's so cool first and submit that first, you may. All right? Your grade book might look a little funky, but it should be okay. I don't give you a 0 unless you don't turn anything in. When would you like the first program due? And you get to pick whichever one it is. We just did the worksheet here.
Yeah, about that.
Monday?
First.
After the worksheet?
January 1st.
January 1st. That means you all get incompletes and you're working all over Christmas break trying to get this stuff done and doing your Unit 4 or 5. I'm going to do Monday or maybe Thursday, the next Friday. I can't do a week each. It's just going to be too much. Because you know when I'm going to start my Unit 5 lecture? Right there, the 22nd.
Yeah, you.
What about the 29th?
Shit, that's only a week.
Careful, the recording's on. How about what, the 29th?
Yeah. That's 2 weeks.
How about we do the 27th? He doesn't like the 27th.
I don't mind the 27th if the rest of you don't, but that's just 3 days after the worksheet. But you can get the worksheet done quicker, right?
If there's 2 more
There's 2 more.
programs, though, we gotta
2 more.
have a ton to do.
All right, I'm going with him, 27th. Keep you motivated. That's the first program. Could be any one of them.
Which one's the easiest to do first?
I think they're all easy because you already have the designs done, right?
Yeah.
All you gotta do is write 4 pieces of code, attach a welcome screen, do some documentation, that's all. Add some accept buttons. Most of the stuff you already know how to do. It's just the translation of your design. All right, next one. I'm going to math. I'm going to put a date in the math program just so we have dates that you can see. But this is your second program.
November 16th.
November 16th, he says. Really? Sounds like a long time. What did we just do? The 27th? 16th for one more program?
31st.
Let's go Mondays. So I'm going to go to November 3rd. God, it sounds like it's almost the end of the semester. You're starting to dream about turkey already.
Hey, I'll be done with all my classes by November 3rd.
Good to know.
It's great to know. For me, anyway.
And I'm going to put the next one a week later. As always, you can turn them in early. I encourage you to get these done earlier than those due dates because by that time, we'll be pretty close to done with Unit 5 lecture already. And you're still kind of working on Unit 4 stuff, your brain's going to go crazy. Don't do it. I'm just giving you the option. It's nice of me, isn't it?
It's very nice.
November 10th on that last one. My advice, crank them out so that you're not thinking about Unit 5 stuff while you're writing Unit 4 programs. And there may be some tickets coming down the road. I doubt it. The quiz is over. There's no more quizzes after Monday. Okay, we've set the due dates.
What was the last one?
The next Monday. So one more review. The worksheet for Unit 4 is due Friday, next week.
Monday.
Next week, Friday. Then Monday after that for programs, and you pick the program. Whatever order you want to do them in.
I'm gonna get done on Monday. Sounds like a plan.
I'm done. So what's left today is lab for you to get ready for the quiz, and I encourage you, I think I mentioned to the other class, and I'm going to put it in the recording in case I didn't mention it in here. If you're behind, you're still working on the Unit 3 designs or your work, put that away for a little bit because you got a quiz coming Monday. Do the practice sheet, do the worksheet for calculations, maybe even the Unit 4 worksheet because it's got more calculations in it. The Unit 4 worksheet, but that's not due. Calculations worksheet is due today, right? If you need help, Paul and I are here. Now's the time to do it. If you're a little behind, you're going to be turning it in late, that's fine. Focus on that, not your designs, because you got this quiz coming. There's no design on the quiz. Enough said.